What if I told you we can create this kind of functional toggle switches using just CSS? You don't need even a single line of JavaScript. And this is very simple to implement. So let's see how we can do it. Let's start by creating a div with the class of toggle switch. And inside that we can have another div called toggle ball. And then we can go to our CSS, target the toggle switch, and let's say it will have a width of 80 pixel, a height of 40 pixel, and then border of let's say 4 pixels solid and white, and let's give it a border radius. I think the border is too thick, so let's reduce it to 3 pixel or 2 pixel even. And inside this we're going to have a circle, so let's target our toggle ball. Let's say this will have a height of 35 pixel, a width of 35 pixel, and background color will be white, and the border radius will be 50%, so it will be a circle. Let's say 30 pixel instead of 35, and then we can say margin top to be 3 pixel, so it is centered vertically, and then we can say margin left to also be let's say 3 pixel. And just for testing, let's also give our switch a class of active. And then we can say when our toggle switch has a class of active, we can target the toggle ball inside that. And then we can say this will have margin left of 100%. If we do this, it should be active. Now if I do this, the ball goes out of the container. So we can say calc. So we can use the calc function and say 100% minus the width of our ball, which is 30 pixel. It should be calc C-A-L-C, and it is going at the very edge. So instead of 30 pixel, let's say 33. And this is looking much better. And we can also say transition, and the transition is going to be all 0.3 second. And we can also change the background color. So let's target this and let's choose a color. So we can say background color to be something like this. We could also pass the color in our HTML. So what I do is copy this and say here we're going to say style, and then we can say dash color, CLR for short, and it will be the color. So now here instead of this we could also say var dash color, and whatever we pass here, the background color will be that color. And let's just make our cursor to pointer when you hover on it. So our toggle switch will have a cursor of pointer. But this is not functional. We have manually added the active class. Let's remove that. What is something in HTML that is interactive or has to state? So what about input type checkbox? Let's say input : checkbox. We can toggle our checkbox between checked or unchecked, which is how toggle works. Only the UI is different. So first what we can do is when I click on this checkbox should be checked or unchecked. So how do you do that? In that case, instead of div, we could use a label. And then our input would have an ID, so let's give it an ID of let's say input 1, and it can have the same name, and then in our label we can say for equals to the ID of our input. That way when we click on it, the checkbox gets checked or unchecked. Now we could also move our input inside the label, and this still works. And now what I'm going to do is hide our checkbox. So go to our CSS, and then we can target our toggle switch, and then target the checkbox, so we can say input, and the type will be checkbox. And let's say this will have a position of absolute. So a toggle switch would have to have a position of relative, like so. And finally we can hide it by saying opacity to 0. So now we can see that, but if I inspect, here is our checkbox. Okay, now instead of active, somehow we have to target when our toggle switch has an input type checkbox that is checked. So what we can do is instead of saying .active, we can say :has, and what we want to check for is if our toggle switch has an input type checkbox that is checked, :checked. In that case, change the background color. And now you will see if I click, it toggles the background color. So we can just copy this and paste it here, and now if I click, now our toggle switch is working perfectly. And we can have multiple toggle switch and they will all work. And we can change their color also. And look at that, we have created functional toggle switch using just CSS. Not a single line of JavaScript was used.